No, actually, imperfect is the new perfect. Imperfect wins more now because that way people know you're authentic when they see your imperfections. Welcome to King Moves. In chess, the king moves one step at a time, but that single move can change everything. Each week, we explore mindset shifts and simple actions that could lead to the next breakthrough in your business and life. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa. Entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures as we think out loud, challenge assumptions, and uncover the small moves that create big momentum. Welcome to King Moves. Let's start the conversation.
All right, so ChatGPT is a little over 3 years old, and there's been this AI craze. People love it, and then it became kind of oversaturated where we were seeing all this AI-generated content, and then this term AI slop came up, and you and I had an episode about all of the AI slop we see on LinkedIn and how to navigate that. But now I'm starting to notice there's pushback when companies are using AI generated photos and videos. There was one company, it was a clothing company. I can't remember which one it was, but they recently put out an ad using AI generated models, and they didn't try to disguise it or anything. For example, they had a bikini model and the woman had 3 breasts. So obviously it's like, this is AI, but they still got pushback. Some people were like, oh, AI slop and this and that. So there seems to be a growing resentment towards AI, a disdain for AI generated content and an appreciation for human generated content. And I'm wondering if you notice that or if you have any feelings towards that, and what are you seeing on your side of the world?
I don't have my finger on the pulse as much as you do with regards to the AI conversation. So what I can add to this, it's more from the perspective of why I would think that there's some sort of uproar and where there would be a place for it. As you were speaking, Ethan, the thing that came to mind for me is lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds. Because as soon as lab-grown diamonds came about, and I have no idea the history of lab-grown diamonds, but they haven't been around for that long. You're far quicker on the draw with doing a quick search. But you would think with lab-grown diamonds, as soon as lab-grown diamonds were around, that any diamonds that were coming out of the earth, good luck. Big mining companies, good luck, because it looks exactly the same. You can't tell the difference if a jeweler looks at it. Basically, unless there's a certificate, it's basically the same thing. But you have still got people that will say, no chance. Lab-grown diamond, not for me. I want the real thing. Now, what is the real thing? Because like the way what it looks like, the composition, that it's real, but it's fake.
You know, that's interesting though that you bring up lab-grown diamonds, because I think most people, they can't tell the difference between a lab-grown diamond and a real diamond, unless you're a jeweler and you have one of those microscope thingies that can verify the authenticity of something. You can't tell the difference. I think AI hasn't gotten to that point yet, but I think it's inevitable. It will get to that point. But right now, we're kind of in that cubic zirconia phase where if you're wearing fake jewelry, somebody knows. Yeah. It's like, oh, dude, you got on fake earrings. So what is the sentiment? And maybe that's actually a really good metaphor now that you bring that up, because if somebody is wearing fake jewelry and they're being flashy with it and trying to pass it off as real jewelry, then you're like, who's this guy? What a douche, right? So I think that's the key with AI is we have to be careful how we use it. You don't want to pass it off as you're trying to be real. And it's almost like you need to be over the top with it right now. For example, I have a client that I'm working with. It's an insurance agency, and we've been making these AI videos that are like ridiculously just silly and absurd, almost cartoonish, where these like mayhem and disasters happen at sporting events, stuff where people go flying into the bleachers and the whole bleachers crash. and they're funny. They're getting tons of views and traction on YouTube because they're hilarious. But we're very clear that this is not real. This is
Yeah.
AI, you know, and you have to spell it out because there have been some that we posted and we forgot to like put a caption with the video.
Mm.
And immediately the trolls hit the comments and they're like, AI slop, AI slop, AI slop. In my mind, I'm like, duh, yeah, of course it's AI. This can't possibly be real. It defies the laws of
Yeah.
physics. But you
Yeah.
have to really spell it out.
You know what I think trying to think of how to describe it or how to articulate it well, but I think what the problem is here is historically when technology of this type was available, it wasn't available to every single person on the planet. So it was a relatively small percentage of people that were able to like special effect in movies or whatever. Let's
Mm-hmm.
think about that. When something was created, even though it looked really, really real, we knew that not just anybody in our next door neighbor could create it. So there wasn't a surplus of these special, I'm going to call it special effects and videos that were artificially generated doing the rounds. Now the problem is, I think where people are starting to get upset is, it gets boring just seeing one after the next because every person and their dog is creating some sort of AI generated content and specifically now like video content. Have you seen the Olympics? If the Olympic sports that have been changed and they've changed all the Olympic sports to like it's dishwashing or it's people piggyback racing or picking cotton in a field. And it's I mean it looks incredibly it's quite funny, but at the same time it's and when we've got just all of this coming at us all the time, and this can be generated by virtually anybody now, it's like where do we draw the line? Where does this end? And I think maybe that's what people are getting upset with and tired of already is like, are you saying more of this? Like, where does this end? Where do we go to from here? Because if everybody can just generate this, then this kind of video content,
Yeah.
then what? Where previously it was the special few who had studied many years and done this and got budget and not you. Okay, that's an amazing skill set. Not to say that using it well now is not a skill set, but it's a far smaller barrier to overcome. And it's just this surplus of
Yeah.
content not doing the rounds.
We don't appreciate things that anyone could do. You know, there's
Yeah,
no
there we go.
value if anyone, if my 6-year-old kid could pick up a phone and type something and create a video, like there's nothing special about it.
Yeah.
The CEO of Instagram posted something that I want to quote here. He said, authenticity is becoming a scarce resource, driving more demand for creator content, not less. The bar is
Mm.
shifting from, quote, can you create to, quote, can you make something that only you could create? So
Mm.
what he said, this is only part of his post, but what he's saying is that as AI continues to get better, like we notice AI right now because it's too polished, it's too clean, like the skin looks too perfect, things like that. But as AI gets better, it'll start to look more natural, and we'll see flaws and mistakes because that's more believable. So at some point, it's just like the lab grown diamonds, it's going to look more and more like real life. So when you're creating when you're creating content, you have to think about what can I create that only I can create? And I think we're going to inevitably, as things on screens, as we lose trust for things on screens and we approach things with skepticism first, that's going to push people more into real life connection, real
Mm.
life experiences. And I would double down on anything, whether it's in-person retreats, things like that, live comedy shows, theater, like people getting together in person and seeing someone do something in person that they know this cannot
Yeah.
be AI. This is human
Yeah.
generated. That's what's going to win in the coming years.
I mean, I think it's such a powerful message. I mean, you and I have spoken about that and touched on that before that very point, but it's this sack of meat and blood that we all carrying around. How do we get that to the forefront of everything that we do? And maybe that's it. It should be everyone's strategy going into 2026 with all this AI that is going on around us. I'm going to call it just as very broad, but yeah, use it. Make sure that you're not getting left behind. How do you make sure that the authentic you and this body of yours is still still also being pushed to the forefront and not being forgotten about and left behind. Because it is going to be your true differentiator going forward as this evolves even quicker and faster and faster.
100%. And so if I leave people with a king move today, I'm going to say this: lean into imperfection, because AI tries to be perfect. And as humans, we're naturally imperfect. So this relates to a previous episode that you and I had about how we're hesitant to start things because we don't want to start small. We want to start out perfect. But no, actually, imperfect is the new perfect. Imperfect wins more now, because that way people know you're authentic when they see your imperfections. So if there's something you want to start, just start. Show the imperfections, show that it's raw, show that it's real. You walking down the street, with the flaws on your skin and the things in the background, and maybe you swat at a fly in the air, whatever, things that AI can't do, show those human imperfections. And that's going to make us actually stand out in a world that's getting drowned with AI content.
And just to add to that, it also shows a huge amount of courage and confidence if you put content out there that shows those flaws, because of how easily you could have just wiped them clean, wiped them away. Yeah, run it through this, run it through that, gone. Okay, let's put out this polished, perfect piece of whatever. So just remember that as well. Shows huge courage and confidence to put out what is authentically you, which is imperfect.
It makes it easier too, because we don't have to sit here and over edit things and overthink them. Just put it out there. So it should take the load off and give us a little bit of relief. That's a wrap for today's episode of King Moves. Quick favor before we go. If this episode made you think differently or helped you see your next move more clearly, take 30 seconds and leave us a review. It helps the show reach leaders who need these conversations. Remember, in chess, like in business, one right move can change everything.
Take today's action step, make your move, and build momentum. And if you found value in today's episode, share it with someone who's ready for the next breakthrough. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations.
Until next time.